Warning, the following video contains spoilers for Danganronpa V3. If you do not wish to be spoiled, feel free to click away, and I'll see you in the next video. In the span of 9 months, I managed to complete the Danganronpa games, so now it's fitting to finish out the trilogy and find out what the wheel determines for the cast of Danganronpa V3. Hey everyone, Alex here, and today we are completing the trilogy. I did a Danganronpa But the Wheel Decides Their Fate for the first and second games on my other channel, which both of those are now on this channel, so feel free to check those out if you would like. Besides that, the rules are the same. I spun the wheel, wrote down what I got, and now I get to reveal what this version of V3 would exactly look like, and I get to come up with how the heck this all happened. So without further ado, let's get started. So we'll start with our protagonist, and this one, oh my god, this one is pretty much, right off the bat, already pure irony. I ended up getting Tsumugi Shirogane as the protagonist, which, as you know, she was the actual mastermind in V3, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not going to explain the Chapter 6 trial because my brain was more cooked than Russell Wilson this season, so I'm not even gonna go there. As for the support character, I've done it the last 2 games, I'll do it here as well. I managed to land on...
Magic! Magic! Magic!
Himiko Umeno. That's right, I picked the mage. Such a interesting duo for sure, but let's go ahead and jump right into Chapter 1, shall we? So, Chapter 1, the irony just continues to pile on. I really don't know how to explain this, but... the victim ended up being Miyu Iruma.
What?
And what makes this even more ironic is Kibo ends up being the Blackened. So Kibo ended up killing Miyu.
Now that is irony!
If you've seen the other 2 videos of this little series, then you know I try to come up with a way to explain why this happened. So perhaps in this scenario, Miyu and Kibo might have exchanged a conversation, and something just goes completely wrong where Kibo maybe just doesn't understand a certain emotion since he's a robot, not being robophobic, and this could lead him to having some sort of error and just ends up killing Miyu. Another thing to think about in Chapter 1 is the First Blood perk. I'm sure Kibo would feel very guilty, but I think he would end up using this perk and would basically escape the game. So, yeah, he just gets up on out of there since this is a completely different situation than Chapter 1 of the actual game itself. So once again, Kibo kills Miyu, and Kibo ends up using the First Blood perk, and he said, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Don't let your kids watch it!
Chapter 2. Once again, the irony continues. Kokichi ends up killing Kurumi. Yeah, okay, Mr. Wheel, I see how it is, you son of a... So, this one is definitely something. I would think that Kokichi just might have killed Kurumi by accident, as weird as that sounds. And what I mean by that is, he could have meant to set up for someone else's death, possibly Himiko, since she had the magic show. Knowing Kokichi, I think he would do whatever it took to lie and set someone else up to make it look like he didn't do it. He would throw everything off course, and Chapter 2, the trial would probably end up being very chaotic, but eventually I think they would find out that Kokichi did it, and away he goes to the gulag.
It's on the way!
Chapter 3. There's always 2 deaths in Chapter 3. So that's exactly what happens here, and I'm not gonna lie, the end of Chapter 3 really just took a lot out of me. I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted to give Himiko a hug, you know, just to comfort her. But anyway, here are my 2 victims. My victims ended up being Tenko Chabashira, so she ends up dying in Chapter 3, just like the game itself. And unfortunately, Kaede Akamatsu only gets to Chapter 3. She ends up getting killed. And I landed on Gonta Gokuhara as the Blackened. So this took me a minute to figure out how in the hell would this work? You know, Kokichi's gone and everything else. So here's the best I could come up with. I think Gonta was just tricked into killing them, and he ends up hiding one of the bodies in another room. Didn't have time to hide the other. I'll explain when I get to Chapter 4, but I'm going to say that Gonta was tricked by Korekiyo. Keep in mind, this chapter, it heavily based around him and his talent as the anthropologist and the seance and everything else, so that's why I brought him up. So, unfortunately, Tenko, she may end up dying the same way she does in the actual game. Perhaps Kyo could notion Gonta to do something that supposedly would be part of the seance. But Gonta wouldn't realize that he just killed somebody. Now for Kaede, and poor Kaede, I think once again, Gonta would be absolutely fooled and tricked by Korekiyo, and no one would realize this until the end of the trial. Not to mention, Korekiyo talked about wanting his dead sister to have 100 friends, and how he goes into pure Alabama mode, but I also think that this would break Himiko the same way it did in the game, and as I mentioned earlier, trust me, I was kind of crying with her in that scene. That was just too hard for me.
I've only had her
Himiko
for a day and a half, but if anything happened to her, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Himiko deserved so much better, man. She really did. Okay, so let's talk about Chapter 4 and what I got, because the way things played out and how I spun the wheel, I think this would make sense. So Korekiyo ends up getting killed by Kaito Momota. Luminary of the Stars, that guy.
Oh, brother!
I think Kaito would be straight up pissed about what took place in Chapter 3. I think he would be livid at what just took place. And you gotta remember, he was having an illness, he was at the point of coughing up blood, and he just didn't have much time left. So in this scenario, Kaito just ends up saying, screw it, and takes out Korekiyo. Just straight up game ends him. Takes him out. Stone Cold Stunner, DDT, however you want to do it. Now, yeah, Kaito's going to feel guilty about his actions, and he would also want to do this to end the killing game, so that nobody else would kill each other. I think Maki would definitely still be upset as she was, but I think Kaito would end up dying the same way he did. Seriously, this dude is an absolute Chad, because he never let Monokuma, in his final breaths, he didn't let Monokuma have his way during the execution, and he went out the way he wanted to. Seriously, talk about sending a W on the way out. I salute you, Kaito. But yeah, so Chapter 4, that's it. Kaito kills Korekiyo, and we move on now to Chapter 5. Oh man, unfortunately, Chapter 5, the irony continues to pile on. So, this ends up becoming where Shuichi, unfortunately, is the victim, and the Blackened ended up being Rantaro. Yeah, okay. I had a really hard time coming up with something for this one, but again, this could go back to Rantaro's backstory. This can go back to how he was in a previous killing game, and that's when you start to get near the end of the game. I think that's what ends up happening, and Rantaro might have done it thinking that Shuichi was secretly a mastermind, but he wasn't, because of course, Kaede, well, we thought it was Kaede, but it wasn't. We know what happened in Chapter 1 now if you've played the game, as I'm remembering now, but I'm pretty sure maybe Rantaro just decided, hey, I'm gonna take out the mastermind, and I bet it's Shuichi. Oops, it's not. So yeah, let's go on to Chapter 6. So here's who is left. We got Tsumugi, Himiko, Angie, Ryoma, and Maki. So wait a minute, are you serious? I ended up with all girls and one guy for the third time in a row. Oh my god, wow, how do I keep doing that? Anyway, Chapter 6. So in this situation, I spun it, and I landed on the mastermind being, who else but Angie.
Fuck!
Yeah, this is completely gotten off the rails if Angie's the freaking mastermind, the one who prays to Atua, right? So, this just sounds wacky, so I decided to just make it wacky. So, remember that old Looney Tunes episode? I think it was called Duck Amuck. This was the episode where Daffy kept getting messed with by the artist. It starts out normal, but then suddenly, you see a pencil and a hand coming in and just screwing up the entire setting and messing with Daffy the entire episode. Bugs Bunny had a similar episode too. And this is what I can't fucking speak today. That is what I am imagining. So maybe that's what this is. It's like a huge duck amuck version of Danganronpa. Like, maybe Angie was the brains behind Danganronpa and the series and Team Danganronpa, but even though she is the brains, the one who is the actual creator is Atua. So yeah, Atua created Danganronpa in this scenario. That's why she praises to Atua. Like, Atua could be like an animator, and he does things similar in the trial to what you saw in that Duck Amuck episode. Like I said, Chapter 6 completely screwed with me, and my brain has never been more cooked by a video game than that. But it's Danganronpa, so in terms of that, it makes sense. I mean, yeah. After that, I know in the end we really just ended up with 3, but in this case we have Tsumugi, Himiko, Ryoma, and Maki. That's who we end up with here, so it's interesting to see that Ryoma made it all the way, and maybe his story could be really interesting in a way to where he could finally find that purpose and meaning in life again. And maybe that's his journey throughout the story in this version of Danganronpa V3, now that Ryoma may be now really motivated to figure out all the truths of this world and go out there to the outside world with all the other survivors, with Tsumugi, with Himiko, and with Maki. So, very interesting. Again, it's very weird that Tsumugi, who was the actual mastermind in the real game, ends up being the protagonist and our hero. Himiko making out to be a fun supporting character, and I think she would be a great supporting character because she's Himiko, okay? She's precious, and she needs to be protected at all costs, no doubt. I mean, if I could say that, maybe Tenko won't hate me so much because I'm a man. I'm kidding. Anyway, and then, of course, I mentioned Maki again. 2 characters that survived in the game survived here, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If you like what you saw here, feel free to hit the subscribe button. It would really help out a lot. Hit that like button and turn on notifications, and hope to bring out more videos like this soon, as well as the constant memes that I put out. With that, thank you guys so much. I'm Alex, and I will see you in the next video.